I don't. I think I know like rainy day. Rainy day very rainy day very bad. Rainy day very bad because because I like travel. If it rain, I not able travel. If it rain, mud. If it rain bring mud. Mud problem very big problem.
So the audio clip you just heard, what were some of the major problems in it? So I'm guessing that most of you think that the person behind the audio clip, the speaker, he or she is not very good at English, right? So it's probably a he. So this he person is not a good English speaker. But why is that? When we listen to someone, how do we exactly judge his or her English proficiency, or any language proficiency for that matter? So what are the things that we look out for? Is it his speaking fluency, or is it the grammar that he uses, whether he is using good grammar or not, or if he or she has a good pronunciation? For example, in the audio clip you just heard, the person said berry instead of very, right? So it's sort of a Bangladeshi English accent. He also said because, and I'm not generalizing here, saying that all Bangladeshis, obviously not all Bangladeshis speak like this, but yeah, when you listen to this audio clip, you feel like it's a Bangladeshi or it's an Indian maybe even behind the clip. So in this video, I'll be taking you through a research paper that I actually wrote, a research that I conducted, where I looked at how Bangladeshi people rate English language proficiency. Before going to the main research findings, I would like to discuss the two major elements in my research paper, which are fluency and accent. So there are other things that people take into account when judging someone's language proficiency. For example, they take into account the person's grammar, the grammatical competence of the speaker. So if a speaker is not speaking in quote-unquote proper grammar, then you and I may think that he or she does not know very good English. And also there is complexity, there is vocabulary. Like if someone speaks in fancy words, in fancy terms, sophisticated words, then we tend to think that he or she is a very good English speaker, at least better than another person who speaks in simple words. Alright, so those are also elements in blind language proficiency evaluations. But by far the two most important elements are fluency and accent, and let me just discuss them in brief. So fluency refers to being able to use the language in a very fluid manner, in a very spontaneous manner. So this is what this channel is about, so that I can improve my fluency and that I can motivate you to all improve your fluency as well. So this comes with practice. And when I talk about fluency, I don't refer to just speaking. I also refer to reading and writing. But typically most people also actually constrain themselves to speaking fluency. When they talk about fluency, they only refer to speaking fluency, but it's a good thing to keep in mind that there is also such a thing as reading and writing fluency. When you're able to spontaneously write, when you're able to very efficiently and fastly read something, so you're also fluent at that too. But let's just stick to speaking fluency for now. So I discussed this in length in another video. I'll put it in the description. So it's content related versus language related fluency. When we try to remember something, for example, something that happened 2 weeks ago or maybe years ago, then we may hesitate a bit. We may take some pauses to actually recall that event, right? Or if it's a very sensitive topic, or if it's a very we don't want to offend someone by saying it, then we may hesitate, we may take pauses. And actually sometimes it is good to hesitate. If you just bluntly say something without hesitating, without intentionally hesitating sometimes, so that's sometimes very rude actually. So this is called, if the pauses are related to content, it's called content related fluency. disfluency, but normally we talk about language related fluency, which is being able to use the language fluidly in terms of the linguistic factors. For example, if you don't remember a word, a vocabulary item, or if you are struggling to complete a sentence, an English sentence, because you are not sure how to end it, whether how to use the passive voice or how to use a phrase in a sentence, you are confused about that. So that is language related fluency, and normally when we talk about someone being fluent, we refer to his or her language related fluency, whether or not he or she is competent, he or she is proficient enough to use the language in correct order, in the correct structure. So these are the main things that hamper fluency. There are others. So the main ones are pauses, when we pause while we speak, when we hesitate, when we speak very slow, or when we repair our speech. So repairs, they mean when, for example, I start a sentence but then I go back and then rephrase my thoughts and then again say that sentence. So that is repair. Now let's go to accent. So accent and pronunciation, these two terms are very similar. Pronunciation refers to very specific, on a very individual level of enunciation of how we pronounce things. For example, we pronounce every single word. For every single word, there is a separate pronunciation. There are many pronunciations. There are many ways to pronounce it, to enunciate it, even for syllables. But when we talk about accent, it refers to a particular set of pronunciation features that are different in social or geographical groups. For example, you may think of dialects like Chittagong dialect, Sylhet dialect, Sylheti Bangla, right? You may also think about Irish English, Scottish English, British English, American English, right? So those things can be different in terms of geographical areas, or it can also be different because of social groups. So dialects are only different because of geographical groups, and accents, it can also be different in terms of social groups. So just the rule of thumb is to think of accent as a broad categorization of pronunciation features of an individual based on his or her particular social or geographical group. But how important is accent really? Do you think that someone who does not have a quote-unquote standard English accent, like British English accent or American English accent or even Australian English accent, do you think that someone who does not have this, but he or she is able to speak very fluently, he or she has good grammar, he or she has good vocabulary, do you think that he or she has good English, or do you think that no, he or she also has to have a quote-unquote standard accent? So actually, research has found that people who, once they have reached adolescence, puberty, so afterwards it's very difficult, if not impossible, to properly to mimic the standard variety. We cannot actually do it, even if we try a lot. Well, it's just a theory, but it has a lot of backing, which suggests that it's almost impossible, if not impossible, to actually adopt an English accent after you have reached adolescence. No matter how hard you try, you may be able to master the grammar, you may be able to master many vocabulary items, thousands of vocabulary items, but pronunciation, you cannot truly master it. If you're a child, you can. Well, what about our context? Do you think that in Bangladesh, accent is very important? Do you think that someone who speaks in a quote-unquote standard accent, he or she is given more priority, or at least he or she is judged by others to have better English than someone who has Bangladeshi accent? And is it different in India? Is it different in Malaysia? So in my research study, I have chosen to conduct a research on Bangladeshi accent. So let's go. So what I've done in my research is that I have created 6 separate audio clips with 4 variables. The variables are fluency, accuracy, vocabulary, and accent. So I've interchanged these variables. I've made some of them high, I've made some of them low, I've changed the accent to see what effect this has on my participants' ratings. So the topic of these audio clips, all the speakers behind these audio clips talk about the topic, which is a rainy day, and each of the audio clip is 30 to 40 seconds long approximately. So if you see the number 1 audio clip 1 has high fluency, high accuracy, good vocabulary, and American English accent. So it has the best features of all the 4 variables. But going down, you can see that the fluency, it drops and drops further, and then audio clip 4 again high, medium, low. Then the accent also drops, but the first three audio clips only differ in terms of fluency and accent. So you can see here that the accuracy is high in all these three audio clips. In the first three, vocabulary is also good, but they only differ in terms of American or Bangladeshi English accent and also fluency. The interesting thing here is that audio clip 2 has better fluency than audio clip 3, but audio clip 2 has a quote-unquote non-standard English accent, Bangladeshi English accent, but audio clip 3 has an American English accent which is quote-unquote standard. So I wonder which one, audio clip 2 or 3, will my participants rate higher. So these are my research participants. So I have chosen 6 different demographic groups. I tried to get a variety of people in my research so that I not only chose students but also a wide variety of students like school students, college students, undergraduate students, postgraduate students, and besides students I also chose adult men and adult women. So I wanted to get a holistic picture of how Bangladeshi people rate language proficiency, about how they judge someone's speaking ability. So that's why I chose different demographic groups. Of course, these aren't the only 6 demographic groups that are out there. You can make a lot of other divisions, so you feel free to do more research about it later on, but these are the 6 that I chose, and of them 5 are male and 2 are from English medium, the rest from Bangla medium. And I'll also discuss whether and how, actually, to what extent these background features affected their language proficiency evaluations. Before I present my research findings, why don't you take a shot at rating the language proficiency of 2 audio clips? So I'll just put the audio clips side by side and just listen to them and then think which one is better than the other and also why.
When I hear the word rainy day, I think about the time I got sick after playing outside in the rain. I was drenched so much that my father beat me that day. I still remember the anger father displayed. I mean, it's just what can you call it? It's just fun in the rain. Everyone does that. Everyone should try that, actually.
I love rainy days. Rainy days are rainy days are so romantic. I don't mean love romance. I mean rather what I mean to say is, by rainy days, I mean it is so peaceful. You feel to sleep in. You feel like sleeping all day, or just looking outside the window. Just listening to not songs, but listening to music.
Well, which one did you prefer? Did you prefer the more fluent audio clip, or did you prefer the quote-unquote standard English accent audio clip? In my research study, I found that half of my participants preferred this and the other half preferred this. But why actually? Do you think that only accent is as important as fluency? Let's get deeper into it. So these highlights, the black highlights, so they represent the pauses. Alright, so it's like when I hear the word, so it's like this, it's a small pause. Not even a small pause, it's a significantly long pause. And then the pink highlights, they represent the repairs, that the person went back and then repaired his or her speech. So you can see that this speech sample, audio clip number 2, it has about half of the disfluency markers, like non-fluency markers, compared to this, or even less, we can say half of this. But still, just due to a change in accent, even though it's a much less fluent speech sample, people tended to rate it similar, if not higher, than this one. Alright, so about the other elements, I found that accuracy was also important in the blind language proficiency evaluations. Like, people saw that the other 3 audio clips, like audio clip 4, 5, 6, so those had less accuracy. So those were normally those were tended to have less ratings, lower ratings than the first 3 audio clips. And also complexity was somewhat a factor, like 1 or 2 people only said that, wow, the word choice was fine, I liked how he or she pronounced, or how he or she actually used that word, that sophisticated word. Regarding the influence of demographic groups, I had very interesting results. So the older generation in my study, in particular adult men and adult women, they tended to give more holistic or more overall ratings. Like they did not pick apart the audio clips and say that this audio clip did not have good grammar, this audio clip, for example audio clip number 5, it wasn't very grammatically correct. So they did not make these kind of comments. Rather, they just said that I like audio clip 1, I like audio clip 3, I don't think that audio clip 5 is good. So they made comments like this, very overall, very holistic. On the other hand, the younger generation, in particular the students from college to postgraduate students, they tended to pick apart the audio clips. They said, they commented about grammar, they commented about word choice, about fluency, pronunciation. And another thing was that there were more similarities among adult ratings. Like there were 4 participants who were adult men and adult women. So their ratings were, they weren't exactly the same, but they were very similar to each other. On the other hand, the participant ratings, they differed widely from each other. For example, one participant, he rated one audio clip as his second last, like it was his second worst audio clip in his ratings, but another rater actually rated it the best. So yes, there were very varied responses from the student participants. And specifically the ELT raters, so as I mentioned in my participants, there were 4 participants from undergraduate and postgraduate students. So those 4 are my friends, and since I am from ELT, they are also from ELT, and that's why they had keener insights to give when commenting, when rating the audio clips. For example, one of them, Sirat, she mentioned about fillers to fill the gap. So anyone who has studied discourse analysis will probably know that when we speak, we sometimes use so these sorts of sounds, so that we can have some time, we can fill the gap in our head, so that we can think about what to say next. So these kinds of words, these kinds of terms, they were obviously only used by those who have an ELT background or who are studying it. So this is another significant finding I had. And also, not only postgraduate or undergraduate ELT students, even school students also spoke about pronunciation, about grammar, but the older generation tended not to speak about them. This is it from me. Thank you very much. These are the references. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll stay with me on my journey to become more fluent in English.